Not that I want to say to the people that are watching us live on the internet, good afternoon. And as always, it is good to stand before you on the Lord's Sabbath day. We're going to get right down to the lesson, sisters and brothers. This is my last leg. The next leg will be Brother Andrew. Because this has been a good Black History series, and it's gone all over the world. But of course, sisters and brothers, there's more to just Black history told to the prophets. Also, we have to get off into God's plan too. And God's plan was to create this man and adopt him into his family. But we're going to show you there is a double adoption. So this is Black History Told by the Prophets, Part 5, The Adoption. Black History Told by the Prophets, Part 5, The Adoption. You see, sisters and brothers, God created this man, and God wanted to make this man the same as he is, and that is God. But man fell off the wagon in the Garden of Eden, sisters and brothers, and the Lord has been all the time trying to recover this man. But of course, he chose him a nation to teach the rest of the nation and what he do with this nation is supposed to be done with all nations. So the Lord adopted Israel and sent Israel to teach to the rest of the nations, but we fumble the ball. So this whole lesson has been showing you how did we fumble the ball. But still, the Lord is going to cause us to recover, and this thing is going to be done right. But in order to get this right and to deal with this adoption, we have to start from the beginning, sisters and brothers. We're going to start because this is more than about Israel. Israel is just a finger that the Lord used to bring everybody to him. Now let's start this in Genesis, the first chapter. Genesis chapter 1. Because this is about the creation, sisters and brothers. What most people don't understand, God was creating God. But this man has gotten it, and he's killed the whole thing, and he's watered this word down so until people don't even know why they go to church nowadays. If you ask the people, why do you go to church? To serve God. What for? They wouldn't have a clue. So the Lord created everything, sisters and brothers, but then he got to man, and he created man in his own image because God have a purpose in heart. Now we're going to start this at verse 26. Genesis 1 and verse 26. And we're going to learn some things on our way to learning something. Verse 26, go ahead.
And God said, let us make man in our image,
go ahead,
after our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth.
Now, first thing is God made man in his image. This is physically, sisters and brothers. And then he gave man some authority because he said, I'm going to put him over everything over the earth. Letting you know that man is a little bigger species than the rest of them. God has something big in plan for us. Go ahead and read.
So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him.
Go ahead.
Male and female created he them.
Go ahead.
And God blessed them. And God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth.
Now the Lord created us in his own image, sisters and brothers. Man is male and female. Man is just not the male. Man is the species. And he said, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. Go ahead.
And subdue it. And have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air. And over every living thing that moveth upon the earth.
So the Lord gave this man the authority to rule everything, and this man can. Excuse me. As big as the elephant is, we can control it. We can control the lion. We can control the tiger. We can control everything, even the alligator in the rivers, because the Lord gave us that authority, because he is preparing us for a bigger thing, because man is created to be over God's hand, sisters and brothers, and the animals that we are over are not all the work of God's hand. So the Lord created us to rule, but also he created us to be just like him. But we fell off the wagon. And we fell off the wagon in the Garden of Eden, even before we can even get off the starting blocks. Let's go into Genesis, the second chapter. and bring this man into existence. Genesis chapter 2, and we're going to start reading at verse 7. Genesis 2 and 7. Genesis 2 and 7. Okay, read it.
And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life.
Go ahead.
And man became a living soul.
Now, this is learning something on your way to learning something. People have told you that you have a soul in you. No, sisters and brothers, you are the soul. Because he say he breathed into his nostrils and man became a living soul. If I cut a finger off you, I just cut a finger off your soul. Go ahead and read.
And the Lord God planted a garden eastward in Eden. And there he put the man whom he had formed.
Go ahead.
And out of the ground made the Lord God to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food.
Now, first thing, when he put him in his garden, he's out of the ground. He called to grow every tree that is good for food and pleasant for the sight. Go ahead and read.
The tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
But you had two other trees, sister and brother, the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. These trees did not grow out of the ground. We're going to show you, well, we have other lessons. We can't show everything in one lesson, but the tree of life is the Lord himself. And the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, that's Satan the devil, sisters and brothers. And he's the only one that the Lord forbidden us to deal with consequences. Skip down to verse 16. 16 and go ahead.
And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat.
Go ahead.
But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it.
For
in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die.
Now that's the first time that the Lord even mentioned death, because death is not a part of the original creation, sister and brother. Because man sinned against God, death was added to the creation. If man had not eaten of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, then man would never have died. Death would even be in our vocabulary. So he said, but the day that you eat of that tree, that's the day you're going to die. Let's see what this man did. Let's go into Genesis, the 3rd chapter. Genesis chapter 3. And we're going to start reading at verse 1. Genesis 3 and verse 1. Okay, read it.
Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, yeah, have God said you should not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden.
Go ahead.
But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God have said you shall not eat of it. Neither shall you touch it, lest ye die.
Now the serpent. So they heard the whole conversation, and we're not talking snake here, sisters and brothers. You want to know what the serpent is on your own? You go read the 12th chapter of Revelation. It'll give you all of Satan's titles. He's called a serpent too. Snakes didn't talk then. Snakes don't talk, and snakes never will talk. So this is a Satan, the devil here, that said, look, the God, oh, you might eat of every tree, huh? The woman said, no, we can eat of every tree but the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The day that we eat of that, the Lord said, that is the day that we will die. Go ahead and read.
And the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die.
And he said, you shall not surely die. Every time you go to a funeral, you hear that same conversation. That's not Sister Jones there. That's her shell. She made her homecoming. She made the transition. She is sitting in heaven looking down, smiling. If that's the case, then she didn't die, right?
That's right.
Preachers quoted every funeral. So the Lord lied, or did Satan lie? I'm going to ride with the Lord.
That's right.
Because he's the one that tells the truth.
That's right.
Go ahead and read.
For God doeth know that in the day you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened.
He didn't lie there. Go ahead.
And ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil.
He didn't lie when you're going to say you're going to know good and evil, because we learned that. But keep reading.
And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat.
Go ahead.
And gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat.
Now see, the woman is the one that did the talking with Satan, not the man. She took the conversation, because we're not talking about apples, sisters and brothers. That is a fairy tale. You know, you get a certain woman with the apple, and sometimes the snake wrapped around the tree with the apple in his mouth. If the apple would inform you, then all I'd have to do is go to Jewel's and get me a bushel of apples. And you could do the same thing and give all your children apples. Now they're totally educated. You ain't got to spend all that money on education. It got nothing to do with our fruit system, brother. The fruit is the fruit of lies, conversation. Okay. So he said, so what she did, she ate and she gave her husband. Go ahead and read.
And the eyes of them both were open. And they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons.
Now, you cannot be informed by eating the fruit, can you? So they knew it. Then God came along, and he saw that they had been dealing with this tree of the knowledge of good and evil, so he passed sentence on this man. Skip right on down to verse 17 and read it.
And unto Adam he said, because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife,
go ahead,
and hast eaten of the tree of which I commanded thee, saying, thou shalt not eat of it, cursed is the ground for thy sake.
Now, go ahead.
In sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life.
Now look, sisters and brothers, he said unto Adam, he said, didn't it? Because you have hearkened to the voice of your wife. Adam never talked to Satan. The woman talked to Satan, and she took the conversation and persuaded him. Paul told you that Adam was not deceived, Eve was. He just went with the woman. So the Lord said, because of that, the ground is cursed. Skip down to verse 19 and go ahead.
In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground.
Go ahead.
For out of it wast thou taken. For dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return.
He said, you're going to have to labor until you return to the ground. Because dust thou art, and to dust thou shalt return. I tell people all the time, when you're at funeral, you can't say that she done made her homecoming. Let's wait till we take her to the graveyard, and when we put her in the ground, she have made her homecoming, because dust she is, and to dust you're going to return. Everybody you ever seen die, where do they put them? And you ain't never seen nothing float up out of it. I don't care what somebody says, sooner or later you got to have a freak accident. And this internal person going to forget to camouflage themselves, and you going to see it. Haven't happened one time. So the Lord said, dust you are, and to dust thou shalt return. Skip down to verse 22. Verse 22, and go ahead.
And the Lord God said, behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil.
Go ahead.
And now lest he put forth his hand and take also the tree of life and eat, and live forever.
Go ahead.
Therefore the Lord God sent him forth from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from whence he was taken.
Now Satan didn't lie all together. He said, yeah, the man has become as one of us to know good and evil. Now, lest he put forth his hand and eat of the tree of life and live forever, they put him out of the garden. You know what that tells me? That you could live forever if you only knew how. And the Lord, after then talked to Satan, he made it clear that he was not going to allow you to learn how to live forever. Because how do you learn? All you had to do was know how. That's what knowledge is. That means that this man could have talked to Satan and still could have hung around God and learned how to be an immortal. But he was tainted then. Lord ain't going to handle no more devils. He can handle the angels. He can handle Satan. But he have his hand full if one of us, after we had made the transition go bad, because we be God. You know what Jesus said when he come out the grave? He said, all power is given into my hand in heaven and in earth. How absolute is all, sister and brother? And he said heaven and earth, didn't he? So no matter where he was, that is the same thing we will have when the transition is made. So the Lord said, we're going to put him out of the garden. So we ain't going to allow him to learn how to live forever. He ain't ready for it yet. And look at some of our behavior. When you agree with it,
yeah, that's right.
Go ahead and read.
So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubim, and a flaming sword was turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life.
So he drove him out, and he put cherubims around him to keep the way of the tree of life. The tree of life is the Lord, sister and brother. You can go everywhere you see the Lord show up, these angels are there. But still, let's go into Genesis, the 4th chapter, and we're going to get a pretty good example why God could not let this man learn how to be God. Genesis, the 4th chapter. Genesis chapter 4, and let's start reading at verse 1. Okay, read it.
And Adam knew Eve, his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord.
Go ahead.
And she again bare his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground.
Now, okay, so now you got two sons, the first two born in this whole earth. Cain and Abel. Okay, they gets into it. Abel gets jealous of Cain, and he kills him. Skip down to verse 8. Verse 8, and go ahead.
And Cain talked with Abel, his brother. And it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel, his brother, and slew him. And the Lord said unto Cain, where is thy brother? Where is Abel thy brother?
Go ahead.
And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper?
And that let me know that the law was here, sister and brother. Because if he had not known that thou shalt not kill, he'd say, oh, I killed him, and dumped him in the field over there.
Mm-hmm.
But he knew thou shalt not kill. Therefore, he said, I don't know where he is. Am I my brother's keeper? This is what people go talking about where Moses gave the law. This was before Moses' time, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
2 guys on the whole planet that was born in the whole creation. Go ahead and read.
And he said, what hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground.
Go ahead.
And now art thou cursed from the earth, which have opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand.
Go ahead.
When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth.
Now the Lord said, because of what you've done, you're going to be a fugitive and a vagabond. So he drove Cain from his presence. Skip down to verse 16. Verse 16. Go ahead.
And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelled in the land of Nod, on the east of Eden.
Now he drove him away. So God disinherited Cain, sisters and brothers, and we're going to show you. From that day on, Cain was not even mentioned nowhere in the lineage of the Lord. Go ahead and read.
And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived, and bare Enoch. And he built a city, and called the name of the city after the name of his son, Enoch.
Now I know the question you might be asking, where did Cain get this woman from? We're going to find that out later. Go ahead and read.
And unto Enoch was born Irad, and Irad begot Mehujael, and Mehujael begot Methusael, and Methusael begot Lamech. And Lamech took unto him 2 wives. The name of the one was Adah, and the name of the other Zillah.